What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Touchdowns to Home Runs. My name is Bernie. Thank you for joining us today on the Touchdowns to Home Runs show. Hope that your day is going absolutely fantastic. Today we're going to be breaking down sort of where each one of the players on the Toronto Blue Jays could be playing defensively. We'll be breaking down sort of the defensive and positional eligibility and rotations that the Toronto Blue Jays could be using in the 2021 season. Before we get into today's video, make sure to let me know that you guys are liking these Toronto Blue Jays videos leading up into the MLB season by leaving a like down below. But anyways, let's get into the video. So starting with the catching position, which I actually think is the most intriguing defensive position for the Blue Jays, besides probably second base and third base. I think that most Blue Jays fans, including myself, would assume that Danny Jansen is going to be the majority time starting catcher, at least this year. But the Blue Jays have really three possibilities: Reese McGuire, Danny Jansen, and Alejandro Kirk. Now my prediction, I'll break it down in just a second, but my prediction for the distribution of games would be that Danny Jansen starts in the area sort of 100 starts at catcher, and Alejandro Kirk gets the other start at 60. Now that's assuming and hopefully that none of those two guys get injured, and then Kirk would end up splitting time at DH as well. My prediction is actually that Reese McGuire will not make the roster, and as we'll sort of get to in a bit, I expect the Blue Jays to go with a bit of a shorter bench. They have some excess outfielders. Obviously Kirk, Tellez have to rotate in that DH spot as well. So I'd say Reese McGuire does not make the roster and wouldn't be on the roster again unless there's some injuries. But from Danny Jansen, what you're getting is an inconsistent bat, but a guy with 20, 25 type home run power. He's an improved defender. He's been working sort of on his throws to second, his blocking, and I think we've seen that sort of over the course of the past few years. Danny Jansen is a pretty good defender, and I think as the majority catcher right now, that's what we need with the rotation that has a lot of questions. In terms of Alejandro Kirk, you're getting a guy with a big bat. This is a great pure hitter. He has been what we saw in 2020, also from what we've seen from him in the minor leagues. Also coming into camp, Alejandro Kirk has lost a lot of weight, similar to what Guerrero did, who lost like 42 pounds, which is just fantastic. But yeah, Kirk lost some weight. He's a great hitter. I think, having that type of bat for 60 games in terms of the catching position, I think it is exactly what the Blue Jays need in the lineup. And when you look at Reese McGuire, you're looking at an inconsistent hitter just like Danny Jansen, who probably has less power and is definitely not as good of a defender. So I think with Danny Jansen, Kirk splitting time, you're getting both the bat, you're getting the defensive promise at the catching position as well. In terms of first base, I think it's going to be a split between mostly Vlad Guerrero and Rowdy Tellez. I expect Guerrero to get majority of the games. We might also see Kirk rotate in there as well sometimes. But again, as I was mentioning before, Guerrero's lost a lot of weight. Even when he transitioned from third base to first base last year, we didn't see him tremendous in terms of defense at first base, but I do think he's more athletic, and I think you want to keep him over there, at least getting some reps defensively, because I think, a couple years down the line, you're hoping to transition Guerrero back to third base. In terms of Rowdy Tellez, I think you just want to get the bat of Rowdy Tellez into the lineup as much as possible. So that's why I have him splitting time at DH and first base, rotating with Guerrero at first and then Kirk at DH. Because again, as I mentioned in past videos, Rowdy Tellez was one of our best hitters last year, and he barely got any time in the lineup. And I know a lot of Blue Jays fans like him, want to see him in the lineup. As long as he can become less of a free swinger, I think Rowdy Tellez can provide us some tremendous production. Moving over to second and third base, we're going to do these ones together because it really just comes down to Simeon and Bigio and who you want to play where, assuming that both Groshans and Austin Martin do not make the roster, which leaves Joe Panik as sort of your utility guy over the infield to sort of back up third base and second base. But according to Roster Resource on Fangraphs, they have Biggio playing third base and Marcus Semien playing second base. Now, I think you could argue sort of that it could be either way, but with Biggio at third base, you're getting probably the more fundamentally sound defender, even though Marcus Semien has improved his defense over the course of the past few years, probably less errors at third base, and then Semien, again, an improved defender, but you're putting him at probably the easier position at second base. The way that you could argue the other way is that Simeon and Bigio, well, both of them have had experience at third base at some point of their high school or college or minor league, even major league career. Simeon has played some third base, more so than Cavan Biggio. He's probably got more range as well at the position, which could be more transferable to third base. And you're also talking about a guy who's primarily over the course of his career played on the left side of the infield, as opposed to Biggio, who's played primarily on the right side of the infield at second base. So again, you could argue that Marcus Semien is more transferable to third base, but to be honest, I really have no preference. I think it's going to still come down to see, what happens in spring training. I think both of them will be tried at both positions, and then it's going to come down to a call from Charlie Montoyo. At shortstop, Bichette is going to be pretty much the everyday player. Again, might see Panik there sometimes, might even see Simeon there sometimes, who again has primarily played shortstop over the course of his career. But with Bichette, I think he is an athletic player. I think he showed flashes of really good defense at shortstop, but he did make a lot of errors last year. I think with more reps, he will become more fundamentally sound, but I really hope that we can see that this year. We need less errors from shortstop, clean up the defense a little bit. Moving to the outfield from left to right, I have it as Gurriel Jr., Springer in center, and then Teoscar in right field, which leaves Randal Grichuk rotating in DH and possibly coming off the bench as well. In left field with Gurriel, we're talking about a guy who made the transition to the outfield after being a middle infielder, and I think he's done a great job with it. Again, I think reps will help him become a little more fundamentally sound, but this is a guy who had a lot of outfield assists last year. We saw some flashes of really good defensive abilities, and I think, even though the Blue Jays aren't necessarily tremendous in the outfield in terms of defense, I do think they are improving. And in center field, we're getting a true center fielder, a guy who's really fundamentally sound in Gold Glove type talks. Definitely our best defensive outfielder, and probably our best defensive outfielder again that we've seen since Kevin Pillar. Really like Springer in center field. And then in right field, Teoscar Hernandez, historically not a great defensive outfielder, but a guy who has improved. His defensive WAR was up last year. But again, got to cut down the errors in the outfield, but I think the outfield assists are there. And again, the outfield in terms of defense is moving in the right direction. One more position in the lineup to cover, which is DH. As I was mentioning before, I think it's going to be mostly a 50-50 split. I expect 40% of the games probably to be Kirk at DH, the other 40 to be Rowdy Tellez, which would leave about 20% probably for Randal Grichuk. I think those are the only three guys beside Panik that would even be rotating on the bench as well. I think the Blue Jays are going to go shorter, and I don't think that any of those prospects are going to make the team and sit on the bench. But I think the DH position could provide us a lot of production in the lineup, because you're looking at a big hitter from Tellez, you're looking at a great hitter in terms of Kirk, and you're looking at Grichuk, who, his numbers have been a little inconsistent over the course of the past few years, but a guy late in innings, if you need a home run, right? And we also saw him change his approach at the plate last year to become more of an overall hitter. All the numbers on his slash line were up last year. So Grichuk would be a great hitter to have either in the DH spot or coming off the bench potentially later in innings. And again, I could see Grichuk being packaged in a trade deal at some point in the season to possibly acquire a starting pitcher. And he still does have a fairly big deal, so if the Blue Jays could end up dumping that, I think that would be the best for them. But for now, coming DH and off the bench, I think Grichuk provides us a lot of production. But anyways, guys, that's going to be all for today. If you guys did enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs. I also want to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you think I got it right? Do you think I got it wrong? Where do you think everybody is going to be playing? But anyways, guys, again, if you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.